Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Devin Thomas back with another episode of Unscripted. How are we doing? It was a good week. You know, it was Halloween. It's a big one here in the United States. Everybody loves to celebrate, get dressed up, have a good time. I certainly did. I hope you all did too. Well, this might be the last Stevie recovery update. We'll start with that. You know, like I said, it's become a regular thing. Not that I'm happy about it, but Stevie's doing well. He's doing good. He's finally, I keep joking like homeostasis, but no, he's gotten really close to feeling back to normal. He went and saw this lady, Sun Yu. I know I mentioned her last week. This really nice South Korean lady who has a practice where she does like acupuncture, and he went back yesterday, or maybe it was the day before. Excuse me. I think he went on Saturday evening around 5, day after Halloween, and she literally told him straight up, she's like, "You don't need more treatment. Like, I think I got it. I think I fixed it." So we appreciate her honesty, but also what a relief. I mean, this guy was going through pain, seeing like many doctors, people that are way qualified, and they just couldn't diagnose it correctly. Like, a few got close, but nobody really nailed the thing about like the cranial knots, and acupuncture wasn't really suggested in this case. They wanted to do MRIs and talk about like spinal and neck or muscular, whatever. I have told you I'm not a doctor. I can't speak on this as a doctor or practitioner, but yeah, it seems like Sun Yu figured it out and like has really helped him. My dad actually went too to go and see her, and she's like, "Hey, like he needs like treatment, but you like the one session gave him a lot of relief. He's back to normal, been working, feeling good." We're even talking about doing a short. I'll get into that in a minute, but yeah. So Stevie's health update, pretty much, he's not out of the woods yet, but he's almost there, and like what a blessing, you know. It's been a long time coming. This year, we've talked about it. This year got eaten up by like health problems to some extent. Not that the time was wasted, like the podcast and all the writing I got done. And even Stevie and I, we talk every day about production and filmmaking, and that didn't change. But when you don't feel well enough to go out and shoot a feature film, like it's tough to go and do that. So yeah, on that note, I think, he seems like he's almost back to 100%. I say right now, like a strong 90, you know, and we're even going on walks again. Like, I'll be honest, like over the past 6-8 months, however long this has been going on, which is crazy. It's a long time to be like not well. Like when I had back pain, it was like a long time coming because I'd felt the pain coming, but I don't know, like 2 months of like really being down and out. And I made like a lot of lifestyle changes, a bunch of changes, you know, but you know, it's not like he wasn't willing to do that for himself. It was just, you know, it was a bad thing. And after being down that long, it's really good to have him back in good spirits and in good energy, good health. He's feeling well. So hopefully that'll be the last Stevie medical update that I have to give. Hopefully if I do mention it again, it's just that he's feeling good, you know? So, and right now it seems like that we've, you know, almost out of the woods, like I said. What else? That's not even really what else. That's kind of been over the course of the week. This week was a little slow, I won't lie. And I didn't even dislike it. I'm usually at like 110%. I know some people don't even like hearing that, like 110%. It's like, look, I usually I'm driving in fucking like overdrive. I'm not putting the brakes on. I'm like every day, like I beat myself up about it. I'm like, you gotta do something, you gotta work, you know, keep yourself busy. And like, I like that because some say idle hands are the devil's playground. And I agree. Like, you know, you don't want to succumb to like pleasure and just hanging out. Like, and I get it. Like, we're all human. We got to take days off and do that. But like, I'm pretty like strict with myself. I tell myself like, you know, like don't eat bad, don't drink alcohol, don't do this, don't do that. And it's not like I'm trying to deprive myself of pleasure. It's just, I want to be a top performer. I want to be on the top of my game. And look, I like to have a good time. I like to do all these indulgences, but like I've also overindulged before where I've gotten to the point where I feel like I'm a little off track of like, you can do it, but when you go off track for too long, you start looking back and you're like, fuck, like I really wasted a lot of time. Or like, who are you letting down in the end? You're not letting down your friends. You're like, come on out for a drink, or like, come on out and let's fucking do this or that. You're letting down yourself in the long run. And it's terms of like, you can't get the time back, and time is the most valuable asset. And like for me, not working on the thing that I want the most and trying to get closer to that goal, it really bothers me because I'm like, dude, it's on you. Like, don't fuck around. Don't waste your time. Like keep your eye on the ball, right? And it's as simple as that. And I try to keep my eye on the ball. This week, you know, I had my eye on the ball, but I definitely like leaned into the like, you know, the slow paced lifestyle. And by that, I don't even mean that I wasn't working. I actually had a ton of ideas this week. We worked really hard on some other projects we're working on, but I feel like I just really, you know, like I watched like 6 episodes of Game of Thrones in a row. You know, I wasn't like concerned about going out and just fucking conquering the world this week. And that's not in a bad way. Like I needed it. And like, I felt my body telling me like, hey, just like slow down for a minute, dude. And that's what I did. And, it was a nice week. I also, our family, spent some time out of my grandma's house. She's remodeling, and, there's just so much stuff that she's not going to put back into the house. And like, we have a really good friend. His name's Jose. He's like our go-to contractor. We've worked with him for probably 10 years, maybe even longer than that. But anyways, he's a super good dude. He was over there and he's like, hey, like, you just need to fucking get rid of some of this stuff. And we agreed. And even my grandma was like, yeah. She's like, I think I've got too much shit. And here's the deal. Like, some of these bedrooms were just becoming like, I'm gonna call it like a storage unit. Like, the house is a generous size, but there's just some shit that it's like, dude, like an iPhone box from the original iPhone launch. It's like, okay, like, we're talking like 07, 06. Like, it's time to clean up some of the shit. So that's what we did. And it was all organized very well. It was like an organized mess where everything's like perfectly put away. But anyways, we've been helping her sort through stuff. A lot of stuff's just getting thrown away. There's some cool, like, just old school stuff. We found a bunch of books. Like, we have like a ton of bookshelves in our house, and we have finally filled them up. Like, I never thought they'd be full. Now they're filled up with great books, some old books, literature from spanning decades, and, it's funny, Christine, Stevie, and I were there with my mom, and we were looking through books, and some of the books we were like, wow, like, this book is like, it's just so old, or like, oh, look at how much care they used to put into the book. It wasn't like paperback. We're talking like hardcover, really nice fucking vintage books. And I don't know, there's something nice about it. Christine really pointed out, she's like, there's a lot of like care put into this. They wanted to look nice, even without the book jacket, like underneath the book, like there's like gold embroidery. The book cover's nice. There's a color pattern. Like, some of the old Harry Potter books are like, even just like, I don't even know what to say, like, just informational books, I guess educational. And they were just so well made. And I told her, I was like, there was like a golden era when we were kids, at least like between like, I was born in 93. So let's just say between like the 90s and I'm sure before the 90s, but like from 90 to 2010, there was a fucking golden age of like the bookstore. There used to be a really great Borders in Sand City. I don't know if you remember that. And if you're not from my area, of course you don't. But if you're from Monterey County, you would frequent this Borders a lot as a kid. I remember going there. I bought so many CDs. I remember buying some of my first like slightly stupid CDs, and I was just, you could like preview it with the headphones and put it on and listen, and it was incredible, right? Like, at the time, it was incredible. Like, I can't believe I can listen to the CD before I buy it. We're talking pre iPod. And dude, I remember going there to get my Harry Potter books, like when they launched, and it was a very fucking special time, the 2000s. It was so cool, and even the early, late 90s. And I'm obviously nostalgic for my childhood. I think many people are. But besides the point, I was telling Christine, like, there was something nice. You go into this giant bookstore. Nobody was hassling you about reading a book. There was hundreds, if not thousands of books. You go read Goosebumps. You go read Harry Potter. You can go get a book that's just a classic. You want to read Catcher in the Rye? Go sit down and read a few pages. Buy it or don't. We don't give a fuck. There was a cafe. I don't know. Maybe it was peak consumerism or peak retail. Pre-internet, pre-Amazon. And I'm sure Amazon and like thrift books, like they probably just fucking knocked out Borders and Barnes and Nobles. But the bookstore era, what a time. It was really fun, really nostalgic. I remember just loving going to Borders. I go with my mom, Stevie, and we just shop and look for shit. And like, I love to read too. I started reading really young. So I don't know, when you're into it, you're into it. And like, that's a candy shop for a reader. And I think it's kind of lost. It was funny when we were in San Jose the other day, I think we were on Bascom. I saw the fucking Barnes and Nobles there. And I told Christine, like, that's like, yeah, it's not like a relic, but like, that's like a bookstore, she just probably hasn't experienced it in the same way maybe like we have. And she's gotten really into reading recently. That's why I'm even bringing it up. And it's like, yeah, maybe it's not such a bad thing to bring back one of those like type stores. Cause like, it's fun to buy a book on the internet, but like, there was a vibe going on in those bookstores. It was huge. And there's like a sense of like community for readers or just people that like literature. And it's not like you're going there and fucking exchanging numbers. Like, hey, like, you're going to read that. It wasn't like a book club, but it's just the energy, it's like going to a baseball game or a football game. Like, there's an energy, a sense of communal watching, or like just knowing other people are into the same shit. Whether that be buying fucking CDs, which nobody really buys anymore unless it's like Taylor Swift, or buying a book, the physical media, one may say. It's kind of a lost art. And even seeing all these books, specifically the books that we sifted through, you can really tell like there was so much care, because like somebody was going to read that and carry it around. And I don't know, if it's a big book, you might be reading it for more than a month, couple months. And they knew that. They made sure it was protected. And like, there was a sense of like, this is important, I guess. And I'd even argue the same for like physical media. The few CDs I do have now, or even DVDs or VHS, which I actually stumbled upon quite the VHS collection as well. A few good DVDs, but it's just, there's a sense of like, wow, like I have it now. Like, that's another thing too. I've talked about this before, but this is obviously a random tangent. But like going to the movie store was like, I'd equate to like for a cinephile, the same as somebody who loves to read, like an avid reader. You're going to go to the bookstore. It's fucking a candy shop for a reader or somebody who likes music, even getting the physical CD. The same for like a Blockbuster or a Hollywood Video. I'll be honest, Blockbuster, I had a really good homie that worked there. And he would always let me rent like movies underage that were like yeah, I'm talking like when I was 14 or 15, he's like, fucking just don't tell anyone. And he'd be like, here's Mulholland Drive, or like, here's fucking whatever, some ridiculous movie that, usually kids wouldn't be watching on TV or whatever. The only way to get that back in the day was probably torrenting, right? Or buying the movie, but they used to like literally check ID for everything. But yeah, like Blockbuster was like a spot where it's like, yeah, you could really just like go in there and spend a lot of time, find shit you would never watch otherwise. Like streaming has kind of opened that door up too, where you watch shit that like you probably wouldn't watch unless it was on streaming, right? Because it's just so bizarre. Like it's not something that's like back in the day when you go to a video store, they just have like bestsellers or like rentals. Like let's just say you walked in and Titanic just came out. The whole fucking wall's Titanic. And then like they're just like, hey, we don't have it. Like everyone goes to rent it the first weekend because they hear the hype. But the rest of the store has a lot of shit that you might explore that you wouldn't otherwise. And I do attribute two things to like really like my cinephile taste. Is one, like Blockbuster, sure, the homie worked there and he opened my eyes to some pretty good like cinema at a very young age. But like Hollywood Video specifically, man, I would go in there and oftentimes like, you're a kid, you can't drive to the store to get the fucking movie right when it comes out. So you see the thing advertised, but then you end up renting something else. And like, it was just so eclectic, the movies they had. And like, I remember even being a kid, like just like the horror section really like piqued my curiosity because it was so scary to me and it was so foreign and bizarre. And I would go through there and like, I remember my friend Jackson and I, shout out Jackson if you're listening. We would go and we'd rent like all the Friday the 13th movies or just bizarre horror movies. And we just have the time of our lives watching them and we talk about them and, you only have a few days to watch them. So we'd watch movies over, watch a few movies. He was my neighbor at the time too. We grew up not right across the street, but he lived up the street from me. And like, he basically lived at my house. I lived at his. It was like one of those classic, Stranger Things, like childhood friendships. Like I'm riding my bike over, bro. I'll be there in a minute. And yeah, we just have so much fucking fun watching these movies together. And that's a communal experience. It's like the sleepover, like you just hanging out with, your people, enjoying the fucking movies. And yeah. And another thing that I'd say really like, probably like helped define my taste was the ability to find movies on the internet, not in the sense of like pirating or stealing, but in the sense of like the availability. I was able to watch things from decades. Perhaps the movie wasn't still in like physical, not production, but it wasn't as available. The demand for it had declined so much. They're like, we're not printing VHSs of that because who the fuck's going to rent it? Or movies that were obviously inappropriate for my age, like R-rated films. I know it sounds ridiculous, but like when you're a kid, there is a lot of novelty of like not only watching an R-rated movie, but maybe perhaps sneaking into an R-rated movie or even finding an R-rated movie on, say, like Pirate Bay or a torrent website or a link on the internet, whatever you want to call it, right? My point more so is that was such like a thing that maybe not everybody culturally was able to experience. I at the time I remember the first time somebody gave me like a quote unquote pirated film. It was Team America World Police. And at the time, I desperately wanted to see Team America, but I believe it came out in 2006. So I think it was 13. There's no way they're letting a 13-year-old into a movie theater. And back in the day, the integrity of like somebody who even worked a job like that, I'm not saying people don't have it, but they're checking your fucking ID like you're going into a bar. They're like, you're not 17. You can't come into this movie. You're not welcome here, essentially, right? And it's just so funny how things have changed because I feel like now you could be fucking 12 years old and buy an R-rated movie ticket and they're like, go right on in, Johnny. Like they just don't care. But anyways, those two things combined, I think really helped build my like cinephile palate where I was able to taste a little bit of everything. If I wanted to watch, say, a movie from, also one thing too, it was obviously broad, diverse, right? But I was able to study directors. Like I remember when I first got into like, say, Kevin Smith, I was like, well, I want to watch all of his movies. How could I do that if I can't really go and find all of them at the store? Like some of the movies, he probably like, they're not renting them. Maybe they just have his best of, right? How can I do that? And I remember like the first time I watched, like say like, it's a very seminal film for me is like Clerks. And I remember the first time I watched it and it was like on a fucking like iMac G4 and I had like torrented the movie and I bought it many times over. So like, I don't feel bad, but at the time I had torrented it and watching it was incredibly like eye-opening from like the indie film perspective. I'm like, wow, like I didn't realize, and I read the story. I'd actually read a book about the movie and like, it was called My First Movie, this book, and it had a lot of directors like the Coen brothers, Kevin Smith, amongst others, talking about how they made their first film. I think Ang Lee was in there, a lot of cool people. And his stood out to me before I'd even heard him talk, before I'd even fucking seen anything. It was the story about how he made a movie when he was young, like 24, and like financed it himself. And I was just like, that's exactly what I want to do. And then seeing the movie after, it was just a very like, it was a punctual moment for me in my filmmaking, like dream and journey and career. And like, I'd always looked up to the greats as well, like Spielberg and shit. When you're a kid, you look up to the blockbusters because like your parents aren't watching fucking indie movies with the kids, right? But this is like my first taste of true independent cinema, maybe outside of like Quentin Tarantino. Another person who I was able to study very, very early, very thoroughly through, the internet. I was able to get access to these films in a time before maybe one may have been available to get them at that age, because parents are pretty restrictive, especially if you grow up in like, my parents weren't too strict on gating content, but they were protective of us watching something inappropriate. Maybe a sex scene wasn't that wild to see, but if there was a lot of blood or gore, I remember I really wanted to watch Terminator 2 as a kid. My parents were like, I don't think you can take it because there's like some scary graphic moments that we don't want you like knocking on the door in the night like I'm having a fucking nightmare. Very childish perspective. But besides the point, torrenting or web streaming, going to the video store, with a combination of these things, I was able to see so much shit. And I think if you're a young filmmaker, because I've had a lot of fucking young filmmakers DMing me asking for advice, questions, direction. If you love movies, that's the first step. Just watch as much shit as you can. Be hungry to just keep watching. Watch shit outside of your comfort zone. Don't get stuck on like, I just watch Marvel movies. Fuck that. They're great. No offense to them, but watch everything. Watch the black and whites. Watch Metropolis. Spend some time being a little feeling like you're bored or not that into it, but you're going to think about that movie later and you're going to be like, you know what? That was a fucking really interesting thing. And you're going to see how much these movies are referenced throughout culture. Watch the oldies, watch the new, watch the contemporary hits, watch the blockbusters, watch the musicals, watch it all. Don't limit yourself to watching just the one thing that you want to make. Because I used to be a little bit one-track mindset, but you know what? Diversify. Find things that just pique your interest. You hear a title you like, just fucking throw it on. Gamble. I think a lot of the times now people are just so like, well, I'm only going to watch these because these are the movies people say are good. That's fine. I watch a lot of the hit list movies too, but explore, watch things that you're afraid to watch, watch things that, you wouldn't normally watch. And that's the best way, I think, to expand your palette. And I know this is a little bit of a rant, but I was really just reflecting on like, even seeing these old books, these old VHS tapes. I got some great VHS tapes. I'm so excited to watch. I don't really watch VHS that much, but it's an experience. I cannot believe we used to watch in that format. I think I talked about this a few months ago on the pod, but it is so crazy how far it's come, like 4K or even HD. Wow. Like we were living in a funny time where like a VHS was a passable way to see a film. And now, I think we take for granted how great the quality of everything we're watching is and how high standards have risen. And I think they'll only get better. But besides the point, all you young filmmakers, dreamers, writers, people that just want to be a part of Hollywood, study the classics, study movies, and just love them. And I think they'll love you back. So that's my 2 cents on that. Anyways, end of rant. What else did we do this week? We had a fucking super busy Halloween. Like, I made reference to this prior, and I was anticipating to be busy, but here's the deal. All of our neighbors set up like probably 2 or 3 weeks before. They had, not even a month before. I remember like a month ago walking around, like walking up and down my street on my daily walks, being like, God damn, our neighbors are outshining us. Like, such good decorations, the inflatables, the props, lighting, like they really do the whole 9 yards, right? We're like the last minute warriors. Like on the day of Halloween, I literally we woke up, I carved maybe 6 pumpkins. 5 or 6 pumpkins all by myself, gutted these fuckers, got it all ready, right? This is at 1:00. So we're already behind. I think Christine and my mom were out with my grandma. Stevie and I are at the house. So we started doing cobwebs, prepping it. The lighting I actually used for the show, we brought outside and we use them. They're expensive ass cinema lights. So last minute, we set up these great lights, and it doesn't matter what the neighbors got. They're Target, Walmart, whatever, fucking Amazon lights. They're great, but nothing beats the Hollywood grade lights, right? So we have these outside with soft boxes, and we get them on, and instantly it makes it look like you're at Disneyland or something. It's like a theme park lighting, right? Really professional. We blast the fucking Harry Potter soundtrack super loud. I think Christine actually did come back. She set up some really cool lights. So we had our whole 9 yards per se, right? We had everything fucking set up. We decked it out for Halloween. Pumpkins are lit. Also, a lot of people they opt to use fake pumpkins. There's nothing better than a real hand-carved jack-o'-lantern. I'm sorry. And we get compliments every year. People are like, oh my God, the pumpkins. Oh my God, the Harry Potter music. We also had some friends over. My buddies, Marco and Elizabeth. Shout out, guys. It was really great to see you. They came through. And I prepped them some pizzas just because I hadn't seen them. They were living out in Utah, and now they're back, and they have a kid and everything now. And I was like, fuck it. I want them to try the pizza. So they came through for a bit, got to try the pizza. And then of course everybody else wanted pizza. So I ended up making a bunch of pizzas. So throughout the night, while people were coming to our house, like, oh my God, it smells like pizza. Honestly, mostly like kids are super honest. So they're just like, they come to the door. It's like the I Like Turtles, like, it smells like pizza. And I was like, yeah, it does. You're fucking right on point. And then adults would come like with their children and be like, my God, it smells good. Like, I want to come in there, like being funny. But it was just, I think it's a good sign that like just even cooking this pizza, like the aroma, it's like our house smells like a fucking pizzeria. I remember walking outside to take like photos of the house while people were trick-or-treating, and coming back inside, I was like, it's like somebody had a pizza scented candle on. It was intense. So that was funny as fuck. Also, like towards the end of the night, one of my neighbors, he came up to me, and he's an older gentleman. He was really cool, and he was like, hey, like, how many do you think? I'm like, I don't know. He's like 410. And he was like, I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I was clicking, like counting. I'm like, my God, like, God love you, man. He counted for us so we didn't have to. And I thought it was really funny. He came over and told us it was nice. And then we probably had another 40 or 50 after that. That was probably around 8:30. And I had people coming all the way till 9. Like, we had taken down the lights, broken this shit down, no more Harry Potter music, and all the way up till 10 o'clock. Like, you'd have just like people being like, hey, like, we even had a sign on the door that said, hey, sorry, we're out of candy, which is kind of a lie. We had probably we went through like 6 bags of Costco candy. And like, at first my mom and Christine were handing out candy, and like, you can't help yourself when like a kid comes to the door, you're like, oh, I want to hook them up. Like, here's like 3 pieces. I got in charge over there at the door, and I was like, Mr. One Piece. I'm like, all right, kid, here. Like, and I'm like rapid fire. Like, I'm like, hey, nice costume. Like, they're like, trick or treat, happy Halloween. But I'm like, I'm all business. I'm like, here's your fucking Reese's cup, And anyways, these kids were super sweet, super nice. Obviously super innocent. They're just having a good time. It was good to see the kids still love trick-or-treating and going out. But yeah, we probably had like 450 people total. A lot of candy. In the end of it, we kept probably like, I'd say like a bowl. We were like, fuck it. At the end of the night, we're like, we're eating this shit. This is, fuck them kids. And it's all good. It worked out. We got like what we wanted. And it was fun just handing out candy. It's a classic, like who doesn't love Halloween? It's a great night. Kids have fun. I think it's also like, I can remember like the Halloweens with the family, like walking around. Those are really fun. But there's something super like core memory moment about the first Halloween where you're not with your parents. And I can remember mine pretty well. Once again, this story involves Jackson, my neighbor up the street. And I remember, I think it was Jackson, myself, maybe my buddy Colin, a few people were over, right? I think we had some girls over too. And maybe we were pretty young. But anyways, we, emptied the pillowcase, went around the neighborhood on our own, and we just thought we were the coolest fucking people in the world. And coming home and watching like Dawn of the Dead, like, the fucking Zack Snyder movie, and just hanging out all night, eating candy. It's a core memory, you don't forget it. You also don't forget the first Halloween where you go out to like a real party. I mean, I remember even walking to like a party in my neighborhood, and it was like a bunch of girls and dudes from fucking high school were there. And it was like, it's an exciting time in your life. I haven't even been that nostalgic lately, but I think just thinking about like those experiences, like seeing kids and seeing them having these experiences, it does make you kind of think like, fuck, like I remember those days. Those were good times. Life was simple. Life was different back then. And yeah, it makes you appreciate those days, for sure. But anyways, Halloween was a hit. It's funny too. Like I went outside the next morning, because I always go outside and check out the street. There's usually like candy wrappers and shit. It's not a big deal. Like, you can pick them up. But I went outside and all of our pumpkins were still lit. I usually just let the little, it's like a tiny candle when you're doing pumpkins. And I'm like, yeah, they'll just go out. But they didn't. And I was like, God damn. Like, also, hold on, let me back up a second. All night long, I was going outside and I kept saying like, it smells like smoke, but like scented, like maybe somebody's smoking like a vaporizer or something. I hear like one of those like nicotine vaporizers. And I wasn't sure what it was. And then finally, like, Christine said, oh no, like Sue got scented candles. I'd mentioned it a few times. She's like, I don't know, what are you talking about? And then she's like, oh no, like your mom got scented candles. I'm like, really? And I was like, yeah, she went to the store last minute because we didn't have candles. She's like, oh fuck, like I'll go get some for you guys. And they were like literal like bath candles, you know what I mean? Like scented. And like I kept saying it all night, like, God damn, it's like very pungent at our door. It smelled like an incense. And I went out the next morning, all these candles are still lit. They're probably like halfway burnt out, but they're like, a nice glass container candle. And like it still smelled out there. I'm like, this, how did I miss this? But anyways, despite carving them, I did not put the candles in there. And it was just funny. Like I blew them all out, but I'm using these candles in my house now. Let's just say that they're very nice. They smell great. It was just funny though, because I was like, who the fuck does that? But if you ever want a little spice to your fucking jack-o'-lantern, throw in one of these scented candles. It was an interesting experience to say the least. One second, let me get a little sip here. Yeah, so Halloween was a hit as usual in our neighborhood. I expected nothing less. I actually got a little worried in the last quarter there that we weren't going to be able to serve all the candy we wanted to serve, but we made it happen. Anyways, Creative front this week. Since Stevie's feeling better, we discussed the idea of like shooting some shit. We have a nice little short that he pitched, and I've kind of developed the idea out with him. But kind of like almost like a one actor short. I think we're gonna try and shoot it tonight, where he's kind of a guy who's just like kind of like Simon Rex X esque, bit Red Rocket ish, where he's just kind of like the party guy. He's like talking to people, but like he's really just talking to himself. Like nobody's really listening, and like it's a stereotype. I think we've met people like that, or everyone kind of knows somebody like that who like is this type of person. I think we're going to show him kind of just throughout the night, different scenarios leading up to him getting home, and like kind of how, you know, somebody like that might live, or how they like go from like the party to back home alone. And like, it's an interesting thing, kind of a slice of life thing. We've been discussing that. Probably shoot it tonight, to be honest, if we have the time and energy. And then I have a lot of ideas on what I want to make next. Right now, I'm considering making this like, I know I say this all the time on the podcast. Let me just say this creatively, like, I do have a lot of ideas. I know sometimes it sounds like, oh, he's so committed to this, so committed to that. It's not even that. It's just like, I kind of like go with the flow. Like I write a lot of scripts. So like when the opportunity arises to make something, I can capitalize on the opportunity and use the most of my time. Right now, I've been revisiting the script. It's called Christmas Lights. I'm definitely going to switch the name. It's just a little too generic in my opinion. But yeah, it's like a Christmas dramedy about a group of friends on Christmas Eve. And there's like 6 characters, small cast, and they all kind of like interact in the sense that they all have their own like relationship issues. And I think it's just an interesting movie. I know most movies play on like the broad strokes of the holidays and like the Hallmark shit. I love those movies, but those are more for like, you know, it's like candy versus like, you know, your protein. Like I want to make something that's got a little bit more meat on the bone, explore some themes that I think are interesting, relationship dynamics. It's like a dramedy, like always. I like to have that, like, I don't like the word somber or, you know, melancholy, but I want it to have like realism where there's like that sense of like real life mixed in with like the not even understated humor, but realistic humor. Like I was talking to my buddy Anthony about this the other day, but I said like living room funny, like the shit that's just funny because it's true, or like it's just how people really are. It's different than like a ha or a knock knock joke. You know what I mean? Like, and like those are always fun, but like this is more, I'd say, sophisticated humor layered in with sophisticated drama, really emotionally intelligence driven. That's what interests me. Like, you know, I there's so many types of movies. There's so many movies that I'd like to make, but like, I think at the end of the day, like relationship or like human emotion, like emotional intelligence, human complexity, it's just so fascinating because you can make it so interesting with so little. And I don't mean like you don't need like production or like a good set and all that. I just mean that like people are so interesting as it is, and it's so complex, how people feel and interact with each other or how they feel about themselves. It's just so fucking crazy. It's endless, you know? And I think most stories, that's the core, is human element to anything. You know, I don't care if it's Star Wars or fucking Alien. It doesn't matter. It could be about anything. Humans and their feelings in the way that the character's arc and it plays out on screen or through the screenplay, whatever, is the most interesting thing to me. And I don't know, when a good movie hits, it hits. And like, this might not be my magnum opus. We even talked about it. Till Stevie was like, you know what, like, I'm not even trying to really, like, I think I could shoot it in a week. And I'm highly considering that, maybe a 1 to 2 week shoot every day, nonstop, dialogue driven film where the action is really between the characters. It's interesting to me. I think it'd be interesting to an audience. And I also think that if you're an actor, it's a great way to showcase your skills as like somebody who can do a lot with a little. And you don't need big fancy sets. You don't need, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of production and huge crew. Something I've also been thinking about a lot lately is like, you know, the crew element. Like I obviously, if I had money to pay a good crew and do it right, I would do that. But like, I'm a maverick, dude. I'm real indie. Like I really like, if it's me, maybe one other person, or just me and the actors, and I just like work with them. There's something, I've said this before, there's something very magical about having it so slimmed down and having this intimate situation where the actors really feel comfortable and they really like, it's like just happening. It's interesting. So it's the type of production I'm thinking of doing on this. I have a few friends I want to ask to be in it. I have a few things I need to do on casting. I really like, there's like 2 female parts that I really need to like think about who I'm going to put in it. And it's like also a commitment thing. I understand not everyone is just available to come and shoot a movie in a week or 2 weeks. And there will obviously be some cost attached to the film, but like in comparison to what like a major film would cost, no. And that's the other thing I've been thinking about too. You know, when you create an opportunity, it's like, you know, I think people understand like, hey, like I might not be getting like a fucking king's ransom to come and do this movie. And like your expectation, honestly, with films is like, if you're in it for like just getting paid, that's really not what it's about. I think it's like getting into something and becoming part of like the pop culture in terms of even if this movie wasn't a hit, you still have something to reference yourself in. But if it does become a hit, now your opportunity to be seen is way bigger. And that's even for like the director, writer, whoever, right? Not just the actors, but it's just showcasing yourself in this light and in a movie is powerful. And I think that's like the opportunity that I'm really selling to people is like, look, trust me, I'm going to make you look good. I'm going to make sure that this film is good. And I'm going to take the utmost care. You're not going to make $1 million making this movie. It might lead to you making a lot of money down the road if that's what you're concerned about, but exposure, experience, learning how to make a movie, being a part of the craft, and learning how to make a movie from an actor's point of view is also very, very fucking important because you don't want to have no experience getting like casted in something big. In my opinion, I think it's always better to kind of cut your teeth. And I'm not saying this movie couldn't be big, but I'm saying cut your teeth on the indie fucking circuit. You don't know where the director might end up. You don't know where you might end up, and you don't know where those roads might converge in the future. So for me, my eye is back on the ball, and I'm excited. And if this one doesn't happen, that's okay. But right now I have like the gas and the vision to like probably accomplish this movie relatively like realistically. Like I said, it's a Christmas drama. It really plays on just like, it's almost like Christmas without parents, if that makes sense. Like if you were just with your friends, like a Friendsgiving, but like a Christmas Eve party where it's just these people that are like old friends, and there's a few different relationship dynamics. There's like 3 different couples, and it's just interesting. I think it's something I'd like to see. And also like around Christmas time, like there's some dramas like The Holdovers. I haven't seen it yet. The Baltimoreans I'd like to watch, but there's many like movies that play more into the Christmas aesthetic, but with a different like storyline versus like, okay, like let's say like Christmas with the Cranks. Like that's a fucking Christmas movie, or Elf. It's on the nose. We know it's Christmas. It's lighthearted. It's different. This movie can still have some lighthearted elements, and it ends, in my opinion, with a lighthearted tone, but it's more so about the journey of these characters, exploring relationship dynamics. It's interesting. I wrote it last Christmas, and I don't know. It's just an interesting movie. I haven't really read it since, but it's been on my mind. It always creeps back up, and I don't know. Stevie and I were also like messing with like some like score and talking about like what I was thinking, what he was thinking for it, and I really wanted to have this like, you know, piano driven ambient kind of like sound. It's like where the tone will be serious because of the music that's accompanying the actual storyline, and it'll be interesting. A few people in mind for some of the roles, and I'm excited. I think it'll be a really cool project. So we have that little short film we might shoot tonight. This Christmas movie, I'm calling it Christmas Lights for now, tentative title, but that idea is something else. And then going into 2026, like health and everything being good, like it's just time to hit the fucking road, hit the pavement, full fucking speed, and just, you know, go wild. Between the podcast, the filmmaking, even acting gigs, everything, like we're just gonna, you know, we're gonna be unhinged now. All right, so what's next? We have Christine Shoots coming up. I think it's November 8th through 11th. So we'll be back in LA pretty soon here. I guess next week, if you really think about it. Got to find a place to stay. Christine's going to stay with the director and the cast and crew, and I think we're going to post up somewhere else just in the meantime. And we might even shoot some shorts while we're down there, and just like, we've got a lot of people to talk to down there. So we're going to go out and network. And like I said last time, I wanted to bring the podcast studio. I was like, I'm going to fucking interview somebody. And I was like, dude, we were there for like 48 hours. It wasn't possible. But besides the point, gonna be down in the city. It'll be nice. I'm gonna hit up the homies, see a few friends. I got some friends too that have been working with like the Real Shorts community. I'd like to tap into that, and just, it's an interesting thing. Like, you know, vertical content has never appealed to me in the sense of creating it, but you can't ignore what Hollywood's doing and what they're doing right. And like, I just, you know, just catching up and talking about it would be nice, because I feel like it's such an interesting field. I don't know who really watches vertical content. That's no disrespect to vertical content, but I don't imagine it's mostly dudes, because like I've seen a lot of the stuff and it seems very like soap opera, like I would even call it like daytime TV-esque, but it's the one thing they do is that they make it so like continuous that like I understand the appeal. If you're like, it's like when you watch one of those cop videos or like the part 1, part 2, sometimes they bait you in. It's a bear trap of a fucking piece of content. And like, it doesn't mean it's bad or dangerous. It just like, it grips you. So stuff like that. But yeah, you know, back in LA, it'd be good to get back out of town. Honestly, it's good to just break the pattern, because like this year, like I said, it was a lot of like being at the house, a little cabin fever-esque. And now that Christine's got this gig, we'll go down to LA, have fun, probably like, you know, come to the set, check it out. But yeah, it'll be good. And there's some cool people getting attached to her project that'll really help amplify its viewership and like festival run. So couldn't be happier for her, and I couldn't be happier for this trip, honestly. It'll be great. So getting into movies. I know last week I talked about Child's Play and maybe a few other films, reference films, Rosemary's Baby, Lily of Blonde Hair. But this week we decided to watch Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, and then after that, we watched Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, Cult of Chucky. So I got 6 fucking Chucky movies in this week, and it fit the tone of the week. We were watching Halloween movies. I won't go into every Chucky because I think that's a lot to dissect. But Child's Play 2, my hot take, was great. Honestly, a nice sequel. You don't know how they're going to reanimate Chucky and make him come back. And this one, they did a great job. The company who had created the Good Guys doll for Chucky, like, recovered the actual evil Chucky from the first film and rebuilt him. And they're like, look, he's fine. But while they're rebuilding him, like a lightning bolt is the fucking building or whatever, there was like electroshock from like the equipment they were using to redesign Chucky, and it reanimates him. He comes back to life, and of course he's after the Andy kid again. Andy's mother's been taken away. He's living in a foster home, and like the foster parents think he's fucking crazy because the kid just can't get over it. But Chucky somehow makes his way back to the house. I think he drives himself there or mails himself to the house. Anyways, that becomes his like MO, is like he gets back into like the, victim's life somehow. Anyways, Child's Play 2, it just turns into Chucky and on the chase trying to get Andy, and the babysitter really steps up and becomes Andy's guardian. Because at first you're like, who's going to protect Andy? He goes from like the foster parents' house, they get sick of him, they send him back to the orphanage, and then from the orphanage, the babysitter, not even the babysitter actually, I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. The other foster kid, she's like a teenager, probably a 17 or 16-year-old girl, becomes Andy's guardian. And it was really good for a sequel, 10 out of 10. And it ends at the toy factory. It's very cool, and it sets the tone for Child's Play 3. Chucky, 8 years later, the toy factory is being taken apart, and he's reanimated again because of like some of his blood that was left in the fucking plastic molding. And look, they can bring him back any way they want. Child's Play 3 was a big jump from Child's Play 1 and 2. It still had Andy, but a different actor, and he's going to military school, and it was very interesting. It was a different take, but they make it work, and it makes a lot of sense. And it had the same writer throughout all these films, Don Mancini. Very good writer. Obviously, the idea was brilliant. Child's Play 1, 2, and 3, very good. Child's Play 3, for what it's worth, too, it might have been like a jump in the timeline, but it was really good. Like, I was surprised and refreshed at like how good it was. I wouldn't say it was the best of, but if you're going on this grind to watch all these movies, you're going to take this journey, it was good. Needless to say, we've become a fan of Chucky, and I never thought I'd say that, just because I just never like saw him and was like, oh, Chucky, so cool. Like, I was just like, yeah, it's just something about it I didn't love. Well, because we got hooked, we ended up watching Bride of Chucky, which was directed by Ronnie Yu. This is a different director than maybe the last few, and the other ones had varying directors as well, but Ronnie Yu rather was good. Don Mancini still wrote it. Same voice of Chucky, Brad Dourif, and then the lead actress is Jennifer Tilly. Also, honorable mention is Katherine Heigl is in this movie as one of the lead actresses, and she was really, really young, and it was surprising to see her kind of like massive fame, but I can't remember the male lead. Regardless, Jennifer Tilly was great. Brad Dourif, really good as Chucky. This was probably the most commercial one. I mentioned this when I talked about Child's Play. I said, I thought Chucky's a popcorn movie. This is the one I'm thinking about where I'm like, culturally, like, this is a movie like the late 90s, stereotypical, like what Scary Movie would make fun of, or Scream, date night horror movie, where it's like scary, but it's fun and it's ridiculous. And honestly, I think Bride of Chucky was by far the best one in terms of like fun. It was Chucky where it was self-aware, had that Gen X self-aware, depreciating humor where, it was kind of like fuck the man humor, and it was good. It was really well done. They're very self-aware, calling back to even like Chucky. You're like, look, this is something about horror that makes it fun, is when you get into like, we're talking about like the fourth film, you can just start fucking having fun with it. People know the character, they know the references, they know what the character's all about. And that's when the fun starts. It's like Chucky's aware that he's Chucky, whereas in Child's Play, like, we're very like the audience watching from the perspective of the audience, trying to see it happening to the characters. Whereas this one, Chucky is self-aware. And same with the Jennifer Tilly character. She's aware of Chucky's like history and crime. She plays like his old lover. And anyways, it was very, very well done. Very fun movie. Just good overall. We watched Seed of Chucky. Seed of Chucky, for what it's worth, it was good. Was it as good as Bride of Chucky? No, not in my opinion. But if I had to say, like, was it good? Yeah, I'd watch it again. Like, if I was going on the Chucky journey or the Child's Play journey, whatever you want to call it, it would be a stop I would take again. I won't delve too deep into it. Jennifer Tilly returns. Brad Dourif, obviously, is the voice of, I guess, Bride of Chucky. Can't remember her name. Besides the point, it was good. Seed of Chucky was interesting. Definitely not as commercial, in my opinion. It was still in that same tone, but not as commercial as perhaps Bride of Chucky. Seed of Chucky it wasn't bad. After that, it seems like Don Mancini takes over as a writer-director. And I think, like, here's the thing in Hollywood. Like, that was the 5th movie. They've milked the cow. A 6th and a 7th Chucky Maybe they're warranted for like fan service and like to please people, but they just weren't that good. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I think Don Mancini's great. He's got a pretty steady hand as a director. I will say this: Curse of Chucky, far better than Cult of Chucky, but both were very budget. There was a little nepotism involved. Fiona Dourif, Brad Dourif, the Chucky's voice, his daughter plays the lead in, I think, both films. And for what it's worth, she was not bad. And I have no problem with that. It seems like this was like Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky felt like family indie films. They had a $5 million budget, going from probably like closer to like 80 or like $50 million. I think it was like 50 or 60 million they're spending on those other Chuckies. Maybe 25 million, actually. I remember reading it was like 25 million on Bride, maybe like 25 or 30 on Seed. And here's the deal. It's like, yeah, back in the day, that was considered a lot of fucking money to spend. And making 50 million on top of 25, like, it was a great movie. They're like, perfect, we made money. Now the standard is like billion or bust, or like hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think that's changing. I think people are starting to be like, well, maybe the movie doesn't have to have like a fucking $400 million opening to be a hit. But you can tell that Hollywood didn't want to make these movies probably, and that they were made from a place of love. I will say that much. Like, I don't think, maybe Don Mancini needed to get paid. I don't think that was the case. He's probably got residuals. He's made his money. These felt more like family movies. And Jennifer Tilly returns for some cameos. She's really great. She's a team player. But yeah, they felt like family films to keep the Chucky legacy going on. There's other Chucky movies, but we kind of like drew the line. We're like, all right, like these two were kind of mid, and I don't think we're going to continue on this journey. But, you know, there's always next year to return to the Chucky films. On the whole, though, I've become a Chucky fan, respectfully. Child's Play 1, I think, is the best. Probably 1 and maybe Bride. 2 was really good, too. Like, I'd watch all the first 3 again. 1 and 2 are, like, you could just, like, have them continuously running. It would be a great watch, like a double feature. Bride of Chucky, really just, like, a fun movie. And so 2000s, or I guess like it's late 90s, so 90s. And it's really, like, you can appreciate it. That was, in my opinion, like, the 90s to, like, 2015, maybe even 2019. That was, like, a golden era for cinema. And we're in a shitty era, in my opinion. But things are changing. I don't want to bash on all movies. They're always good. But anyways, one last movie I watched in between my binge of Game of Thrones was A House of Dynamite, directed by Catherine Bigelow. She did Zero Dark 30. I don't know if you remember that film. It was about like the people that got Osama bin Laden. It's a fantastic film. I throw it into the like 9/11 or post 9/11 category, which if you're interested in that subject matter, there's a lot of great movies. That's for another time. I'll discuss it. But I'm interested in that. And I really liked her take on like the hunt for Osama bin Laden. It was very interesting. Now, that being said, this movie wasn't related to that particularly, but it was about maybe the House of Dynamite, 2025, directed by Catherine Bigelow, writer Noah Oppenheim. It was about if the nuclear attack happens. Like, there's a bomb that's launched in the movie, and they don't know where it's come from. They think maybe AI, not AI, like artificial intelligence, although that's not out of the question, has used some sort of technology to block satellites from initially tracking the launch site so that the bomb just appears on like I think it's like SATCOM or whatever it is, right? The people watching for these nukes. It just appears and like, I think we have a bomb. It turns out they do, and it's headed for Chicago, and they got about 20 minutes to make the decision. And the movie's kind of like Vantage Point, or one of those movies where they show it from multiple perspectives. So you see the different characters handling this, from like the White House to the actual military people that initially detect it, like their job is detecting. They try to shoot it down. It doesn't work. None of their fail safes are working. None of their safety protocols are working to actually take this bomb out of the air prior to a nuclear strike. And you see from other people that work at the White House, you also see the president and how he has to react and like the decision he has to make, a tough decision. The movie was really promising. I think it kind of falls apart towards the end. And the biggest thing that it did wrong was it never shows if the attack happens, if the president decides to strike back. There's moral ambiguity. But look, it's not even that it was bad. Like, I like the idea of the ending more than the way they did it. There was no way to actually determine whether or not he made a decision or if the bomb ever struck. Because they kept saying, oh, the bomb could not detonate on landing. Like, that is a possibility. 100% chance it's going to hit Chicago, but not 100% chance the bomb will detonate. And I don't know. I had high expectations because there's really not that many nuclear war or nuclear bomb movies. People are afraid to talk about it, I guess, or touchy subject for sure. I mean, nobody wants to like put content out maybe instigating or promoting something so terrible and awful, probably like Annihilation, to be honest. But besides the point, I wish they would have given us a little bit more. You know, like the end of Inception when like the totem is spinning? It's ambiguous because we know what the totem stands for. We're like, holy shit, like, is he still dreaming? Like, that's different. This didn't leave me with that like leaning in moment where I'm like, oh my God, like, did the bomb go? It it was a bad ending. It might be one of the worst endings I've ever seen. I'm not trying to completely destroy it, but like everything else was like this great political thriller to some extent. It was good. I think like the effort was made to make it great, but it just ended up being really middle of the road, and it lost its way towards the end, and it just didn't deliver. I won't hate on the acting. Like Idris Elba was good. There's that kid who played fucking what's it called? The Rookie maybe on Netflix, or like, I don't know, The Night Guard. I can't remember. He's in a ton of shit. He's in that JD Vance movie too, where he plays the young version of him, Hillbilly Elegy. And yeah, he's a pretty popular actor. I've seen him in a lot of stuff, but anyways, he's also in Juror Number 2. He plays the suspect that's being accused of murdering Francesca Eastwood in the film. I don't remember her character name, but anyways, for what it's worth, he was good. I kind of got the names on here. Sorry, the light's blocking it. Rebecca Ferguson and Gabriel Basso. I think Gabriel might be the guy from Twisters, and Rebecca, I've seen her in a lot of stuff. Respectfully, I can't recall any of her movies right now, but for what it's worth, the movie was good. It didn't land its plane properly, and I think the intention was there to make a great ambiguous ending, but it ended up just kind of being disappointing. And I even went online after, I'm like, was I the only one? It's like, no, people are like, this might be like one of the most botched endings in modern cinema. So wasn't bad. Not great, at the end of the day. And I was watching it late at night, and I finished up in the morning because like I paused it. I'm like, well, I really want to see this last 20 minutes. And like the last 20 minutes was just like, they kind of show buses driving into like a nuclear bunker, but it's like, well, yeah, like, does that mean he pulled the trigger? Does that mean you never find out who launched it? You never find out anything. And like, I don't know, very, very ambiguous. Not in the best way though. Like not enough to satisfy the viewer. You're like, kind of like, what the fuck happened? Anyways, I digress. But anyways, that was my week. I think this week's going to be really productive. I'm going to be out and about, and I'm going to be back in LA very soon. So try and shoot this short with Stevie. I'm going to be stewing up on this Christmas movie idea. If I can get it all organized and, lock in, like I'm really confident this time around. Like I've said this before, for Peninsula Nights, it took me 8 months to shoot. That's between health problems, business, work. We were all working when we made it. It's a miracle that movie got made. I honestly think back and I'm like, I don't know if I could do it again in the way that we made it. If I say that now, but I could. It's just shooting at night. Like I'm talking, you leave the house at 8, you get back home at 4. Very fucking arduous shoot that took a lot out of us, but we're very proud. Great product at the end of the day. And like this next movie, I want to avoid that huge timeline of like, we don't need to be shooting a movie that's like, 70 or 80 pages for 8 months. I think we can do it in 1 to 2 weeks. And I just have a new confidence in like the way I can go about production. So that's something that's really top of mind. The short film that we're going to shoot should be cool. I'll post it if it's done. We work fast. If we shoot a short film, I could have it done in a night, for a feature. I even think like this next one I can cut as I go, really focus more on aesthetic, performance, and score. Because, Peninsula Nights, we were subjected to using a lot of like licensed music or type music, and it's tough. Like, you want to have an OST, like an original soundtrack if you can. And that's something I'm even, really pushing for. I really want this movie to have a lot of identity, a lot of character, a lot of voice. Peninsula Nights definitely had the voice, tone, and image, but there's certain elements that were out of our control we couldn't really dial in. So it'll be exciting. I'm really excited to work on the next thing. I feel like a painter who just wants to paint. I need the brush, and the camera's a brush, right? And I just want to get back out there and fucking paint. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I got this week. Thanks for listening, by the way. Everybody's tuning in. All the new followers on Instagram, YouTube, social media. Thank you so much for subbing, liking, messaging. I also humor you. If you have movies that I haven't seen or you want me to watch and talk about, send them my way. If you want to be on Unscripted, you have some work you've done. I'm vetting people that are coming on the show, just to be completely honest, but it's nothing against you. Always stay in touch. If your journey elevates or escalates to the point where I feel like it's interesting and I want to talk about it, let's do it. And yeah, I'm excited to just keep on going. So thank you all so much for tuning in and listening. It means a lot. Anyways, guys, I'm Devin Thomas. This is another episode of Unscripted. I will talk to you all next week.